Thanks for tuning in to Ascension 17 with Cynthia Clark, love and ascension coach, author, and healer. This show is to empower starseeds to ascend and become their infinite light. We'll be discussing all sorts of spiritual topics for your vibrational nourishment. This podcast is sponsored by Ascension17.com, the place to find ascension tools and community. Hello there, everyone, and welcome to the show. My name is Cynthia Clark, and I am your Ascension coach. And today we are going to be talking with Olga Kirshenbaum. I'm so excited because she's one of my favorite people who I've met through LinkedIn. And if you've ever been on LinkedIn, there's a lot of people on LinkedIn, first of all. And second of all, you don't usually get to know them very well. So it's a pleasure to finally meet somebody who you resonate with. So anyway, welcome to the show, Olga. It's so nice to see you again.
Thanks so much for having me on, Cynthia. I know that you have been such a huge part on my journey. I remember doing one of my first podcast interviews with you, and now I have my own podcast. And I remember just the experience with you kind of led me to doing my own thing. So it's been a wonderful time knowing you.
Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, podcasting it definitely takes some commitment, and it's not for everybody. I'll just put it that way.
Absolutely.
But it's neat for people who do choose to do it, the things that can get out there. So I'm grateful for just the entire platform of podcasting. I think it's really awesome to be able to hear different voices and different people's opinions and things like that. So it's a lot of fun. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do, and then we're going to dive into some fun spiritual awakening stuff.
Absolutely. I am a money coach. I help people get comfortable with the money in their lives and businesses. Typically, that is building good habits, a good foundation of day-to-day habits, and also working on an abundant mindset. Personally, I think that your mindset is way more important than your habits. So I try to spend equal time on both, but it really depends where the person's coming from. Some people have the good habits and they need a little boost in the mindset area, or sometimes we tackle both together. I do that in a couple of ways. I have a money mastermind called the Shmoney Academy. It's a group learning experience for people who have never budgeted before to pick up those good habits. I also do one-on-one coaching with people to work on an abundant mindset or to build those habits. And also I published a personal finance book called Money Guide. Making money choices doesn't need to be so scary. So it basically encompasses everything you can do from start to finish with your budget to get yourself on that path to financial independence.
Yeah, that's so important because we've all got to deal with money, and it's a reality at least in this dimension. Maybe it'll be different in the fifth dimension. I'm not sure.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll certainly see if that changes. But yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you got into doing that and what led you to that pathway.
So I spent my first 10 years after graduating from college being an accountant for mostly creative companies, visual effects, ebook production, advertising. And one of the tricks that I kind of had to pick up was learning how to talk to directors and managers about money, things that they were very uncomfortable about and oftentimes felt they didn't know enough about to have the conversations. So I learned how to talk to these people without making them feel like stupid or like kind of not focusing on what they don't know, giving them a basic understanding of what they should know so that we can have those conversations that were important. I found myself 10 years later let go from my first job in my career, and I did a little bit of soul searching. I found myself in a pattern of constantly finding great jobs on paper, and then within 18 months, just being either disgruntled, unhappy, and running away from that job to another job. So when I found myself let go, I had an opportunity to kind of do some soul searching and see why this kept happening. And one of the reasons I realized that was happening is I wasn't fulfilled in my corporate jobs. And that was because I really like helping people.
Mm.
And while these conversations with these managers and directors did help in some capacity, it's not the same as when you're helping someone get their budget together, or someone who's a self-employed or a freelancer, helping them understand how to manage their business and their personal finances. It just makes bigger of an impact on people. And I realized that's what I was missing. During the time when I was working in corporate America, I was also giving family and friends advice on money things all the time. So when I was trying to figure out what that thing would be, I didn't actually think it'd be money coaching. But my friends and family kept saying, everyone needs this information. So many people don't know what they're doing, and you're so good at making it sound so simple. You should really give it a go. People would definitely pay for it. And I was starting my LinkedIn journey at the same time. I didn't know if I wanted to do a full-time job or start something of my own. I read a book that said it doesn't really matter what you do on LinkedIn, because people will come to work with you in any capacity because they know you. So I was like, you know what? What's the harm in trying it out? What is a topic that I can talk about? Money. So I started posting about money, and it started resonating with people. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a go. And that's how I started the money coaching business 3 years ago.
Mm, that sounds like quite the journey.
It has been.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how we have these little twists and turns, and half the time we don't see in ourselves necessarily what other people see. That's something I've learned. It's like, oh, okay, so yeah, I'm good at giving advice on money. I never, you might not have really realized how good you were. So that's great that you had some nice people to kind of guide you a little bit. We all need guidance every once in a while.
Absolutely.
So,
I'm definitely very grateful for, I've had a very amazing group of support system and just guides, people who have helped me along the way. Sometimes it's one conversation there was one specific conversation in the last 3 years that kind of put me on this path of working on an abundant mindset. Before, it was just helping people with their budgets.
mhm.
But sometimes it's that one conversation, and all of a sudden you're on a completely different path.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how life can change really fast, isn't it? So, you and I were talking before the show about some things that have been happening to you regarding some numbers. I want to talk a little bit about that. So, tell
Yes.
tell me about what you've been seeing.
Yeah. So I have been noticing a lot of repeating numbers that come up in my day to day. The ones that have been most often repeating are 222,
Hmm.
333, 1111, 1212, and 44 recently started showing up. Three fours. Yeah.
444. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, before our conversation, and we're going to get into this with the audience, did you have any idea what that was doing, or what those numbers were trying to tell you?
So I did a little bit of research, but honestly, I felt like I'm seeing them for a reason, but I haven't connected the dots fully.
Hmm. Yeah. So when people, and this is across the board, so anybody who's out there who's starting to see these numbers, that are repeating numbers. Okay, oftentimes it's 1111 is the first number that starts to show up, but it could be just like you said, 222 or 333. Any of these numbers that repeat are basically a little wink from the universe saying that you are now entering into synchronistic time and you are leaving linear time. And you're entering into a more spiritual part of your life where there's going to be some changes happening that you need to pay attention to. So the numbers correspond to numerology, which is a science that's been out there for quite a long time, where we take the numbers and we analyze what the numbers actually mean. And so ones represent like new beginnings. That's why a lot of people start to see 1111, because it's like, okay, you're into a new beginning, you're into a new timeline, you're into a new awakening. 222 is a beautiful number because that represents spiritual harmony and relationship harmony. So it's reassuring you that you can attract relationships that are beneficial for you. And this isn't just romantic relationships. It can also be professional relationships or even friendships. So that's how I look at the twos. And of course, today we are on the 3-3. Is it an accident that we're recording and airing on 33, which is a beautiful master number. So when we have 11, 22, 33, 44, these are what we call the master numbers. And so what that means is we don't reduce the numbers. Normally you would take like the year, and I've talked about this in another show, but you take 2021, you add 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 1, you get the number 5. Okay, and so what the 5 means is that you have a year of change. So this is the year of change. And it's also the year of the metal ox, which I've also talked about. So if you haven't caught that episode, go back and listen, because there's a lot of information about all that. But so if we take those numbers, they all have significance, and it's good to pay attention. Now, Olga, you as the money person, I won't be surprised if you start to see the 8s, because 8s typically represent money and abundance. So you might start seeing 888 or 88 or variations of the 8. So, oh, and you got a sweet doggy.
I do. Wednesday.
And dogs are very spiritual too, so they like to be included.
And she is a cuddle bug.
Yeah, I dreamed about a dog a couple of nights ago, so that's kind of interesting.
Oh, that's so funny.
So yeah, dogs are really positive to see in dreams because they represent that friendliness and that loyalty energy comes from the dog. So
interesting. I did have a past life regression with a hypnotherapist, and I had a dog with me. It was almost like it was like my friend. And
yeah. Oh, that's so sweet. Yeah, dogs are very special. So so if you're somebody who starts to see those repeating numbers, repeating patterns, that's definitely a sign to pay attention to what's been going on, especially right before, like what were you thinking right before you saw that synchronicity? So this would be where I would ask you, Olga, was there anything significant that was happening in your life, or what were you thinking about when that number came up?
when which number came up? Because I have been seeing a couple of repeating.
Yeah, whatever you see the most, I guess we would want to ask about.
Yeah, I usually see it around the time that I meditate or kind of focus on setting intentions and doing some sort of mindfulness exercise, that definitely always helps. I try to do
Mhm.
them earlier in the day to kind of set myself for a successful day. And when I do that, I definitely see the repeating numbers earlier in the day.
Mhm.
So it helps me, I guess, like when I get like in tune with myself, that's when I start to see the repeating numbers. But I'm also going through drastic changes in my life. I am definitely in a transition period. So I think once I started kind of getting into a positive mindset, that's when I started seeing the numbers more often.
Mhm.
Um, Definitely has helped me, I guess, also continue stay on that positive mindset path, if that makes sense, because I feel like the numbers that I'm seeing are kind of reassuring.
Yes, they definitely are. Yeah, absolutely. I love getting those nods from the universe that, hey, you're on the right track, or, keep going. Don't worry about anything, because there's so much to worry about, right?
Yeah.
Especially
And
these days.
and it definitely helped me to kind of let go and trust that,
Mhm.
even if things do change and we need to pivot, whatever is happening, it's for the best in the end.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about your regression. This is also something that I highly recommend people experience if they've never done hypnosis. Hypnosis is a absolutely fantastic way to tap into your subconscious and really get to some undercurrents of what's going on in your life that you may or may not have any awareness of. And I had one done last October, and that led to like all this new stuff that I'm doing now. So yeah, it's usually pretty life changing when you get it done, and it also just builds an awareness around things that and gives you a new perspective. At least that's what it did for me. So I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that experience.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect going into it because I've never done it before, but it felt so natural. I felt like I was guided through the experience, but it was so interesting to kind of go through it with the hypnotherapist because you're answering the questions that they're asking you, and they're just like leading you down like they're just asking you what you're seeing, and you know what you're seeing. It's so strange, but I think it goes back to what I was saying, like this idea that I've been working on with myself a lot is trusting myself and being like, this is things will work out. Whatever is happening for a reason, even if it's not how I expected, perhaps. And the experience helped me because I was a young woman who had her own house and being celebrated. And it's something that I have trouble accepting in my current life. When people celebrate me and tell me how great I am, it's very hard for me to accept that. And having that experience kind of helped me become sure of myself, saying, like, you deserve that. You worked really hard and you deserve the praise. So, coming out of it kind of helped me remember who I was in the past and kind of bring it with me into my current experience.
Mm, yeah, that's beautiful. And people do struggle with that a lot, I feel, just from reading so many people's hands, struggling with just taking their own value. We tend to, as a society as a whole, I think we tend to downplay ourselves because we're taught to, oh well, that's bragging. If you're constantly putting yourself up, it's like, oh well, that's being pompous, or that's not a positive thing, right? It's considered really negative and arrogant, all of that stuff. But the way we should look at it is that we should celebrate who we are as spiritual beings living in this, physical experience, which is incredibly difficult, from a spiritual side. They say that Earth is one of the most difficult places to train, and every single person on Earth they should feel incredibly proud of what they just to come here. It's like one of the hardest things to do. So when I got that perspective, it was like, wow, okay. I don't even, you don't even realize how amazing you are,
Yeah.
and it's like, you don't have to do anything or prove anything, or, just to be here and be yourself is like the greatest thing you can do. So,
Absolutely. And it's so freeing when you can be
yeah,
yourself.
I know, right? If we could all just be ourselves and
Yep.
own that. So, yeah, so that's beautiful. So, I would like to hear a little bit about your podcast, so that everybody can find that. And I believe it also ties in with the 33, because 33 is about creativity.
Yes.
So, yeah, so tell us about your podcast.
So my podcast is called 9 Minutes of Creative Wisdom, where I speak to creative leaders about business, money, and a sprinkle of fun. I started it because I realized so many people were so intimidated by having money conversations. And I thought, what better way to start money conversations than have a podcast, make it short, simple, sweet, and have those conversations so that people can start having those money conversations with each other, listening to other people talk about money, their experiences. You can find it on all the podcasting platforms and YouTube. It's just 9 minutes for the most part, so it's an easy thing to plug into, hop in and hop out, and have a little bit of fun with us.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And how can people reach you if they want to work with you or want to get to know you better? Where should they go?
Absolutely. Best place to connect with me is on LinkedIn. It's Olga Kirshenbaum. If you type in Money Whisperer, you'll definitely find me on LinkedIn. I respond to all the messages that I get. Also, you can follow my blog, rags to riches consulting.com, where I post money tips and updates from what I'm working on.
Beautiful. So, wrapping up here, is there any other advice that you would have for people who may be going through spiritual transition, or just, maybe they're just struggling out there? What would you advise?
I would say sometimes the struggle is necessary, and the more you can embrace it and kind of live in that moment and figure out what is it that you need to take away to get to the next point. I found that when you embrace that sadness or that difficult, challenging time that you're going through, it actually, you end up on the other side much quicker.
Hmm.
And somehow, once you're on the other side, it feels like it was easier to get through than when you're kind of fighting upstream. So, as difficult as that may be, take it easy. Give yourself some grace. Give yourself some time to feel the down periods, because they're just as necessary. Um, as someone who's always going through these motions right now, um, it's important to embrace them. They are there to also kind of remind us about the beautiful things that we do have in life.
Mhm.
Without those, can't see the light without the dark sort of deal. But also sometimes those things come up because you have to resolve them to be able to get to the next point. So it's something I tell my clients often is, it's great. You want to be on a road to financial independence. There's some choices that you made in your past life that are going to need resolving so you can get to the next point of your life. And sometimes those things do happen. An unexpected parking ticket pops up, insurance bill that you didn't pay, or you just need to have a conversation about. But sometimes those things pop up just so you can move to the next point in your life. So
Mm.
embrace them.
Yeah, absolutely. Learning lessons is one of the steps of ascension. So yeah, the quicker we learn them and actually pay attention to them, the faster we'll move to the next level. So that's well said. So so thank you so much for coming on the show. I so appreciate you. And thanks everybody for tuning in. And remember to own your infinite light, and remember that you are an infinite being of light. So, take it one day at a time, and, cut yourself some slack. And we will be speaking with you again next week. And have a beautiful day, everyone. Thanks for listening to Ascension 17. Please rate, review, and subscribe to show your support. Have a question for Cynthia? Just post a comment. This podcast is sponsored by Ascension17.com, the place that empowers starseeds to ascend and become their infinite light. Want to discover the most important step in ascension and how to take it? Sign up for free at Ascension17.com.